Hey, welcome to Can I Kick It, March 7th, 2021. I had a good weekend, so this was a perfect way to cap it off. Hope everybody out there is doing really well. Remember, you can call in, talk to me, hit me up on Facebook, and talk to me anytime if anything's going on. This is a poem that's always been particularly inspirational to me. Got me through jail and some hard times later in life when I was homeless out there running the streets and stuff. But I think Pete would like this, and this poem helped me as much as Pete did. So, it's episodes with Peter Haskins. I'm going to add his information in the description. Amazing guy. You'll learn all about it in the episode. Out of the night that covers me, black as pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbound. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds it shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul. Enjoy. Hey guys, welcome to Can I Kick It? I'm your host, Alex Ray, back again with my good and long-standing friend, Peter Haskins. I met Pete back in 2014, and I was actually a resident at the Knox County Jail. And I was going through some hard times, just got out of the military. I was in jail, and I just had to drop out of college. I was a philosophy major for the second time, and I had to drop out of college. So I was extremely disheartened, taken away from my kids for the first time. And I really wasn't in the headspace to admitting that I had lost control for my own actions. I had a lot of bitterness that was turned outward towards the community. And I mean, this was way before I even got close to accepting responsibility for my own actions, and we can get more into that, Pete, later. But I think you're a pivotal point in my not just recovery, because my whole life isn't about recovery, although it is a big part. But you're a big part in understanding my self-worth, and you had a lot to do with me putting importance on my education and my self-education, really. Reading, research. So Pete came in and he started a program called Life After Meth here in Vincennes, which was unfounded around here. A lot of times back then, you got in trouble for some drugs, they would just throw you in jail and think that, a slap on the wrist type of thing. And they didn't see the long lasting effects of institutionalization, I think. So Pete moved from Vincennes up to where is it, Pete? Wisconsin?
I live in Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, which is up by Milwaukee.
Okay. How long were you here, and when did you first get here?
I was kind of like washed up on shore. I ended up in Westphalia, Indiana in 2000, late 2001, 2002. My ex-wife and I had our first kid, Dylan, who is now 19. We moved back from Chicago. I used to work with the homeless mentally ill with the group called Thresholds up in Chicago. 9/11 happened, and we had a baby, and it wasn't fun living in Chicago anymore.
No, I bet
Back
not.
home. So I moved from Chicago, 2.3 million, to a population of 199 in West.
When you say it wasn't fun to live in Chicago, does that mean
It was
uh
tense, and right after
right?
9/11, it was hard to live in a big city at that time. So it was just tough. We just needed to get out, and we had a new child, and just needed to get
Yeah.
family, basically move home to family. So I found a church in Westphalia in the middle of, you know, smashed between cornfields and coal mines up there in Westphalia. And my ex and I divorced after about a year and a half, and Dylan was about 18 months old. And within a few months, the meth crisis started to become very prevalent in that area. People started, the meth crisis in Knox County hit about 99, 98 or 99. So it moved west
When it reached critical mass, yeah.
on
Yeah.
I-70, moved up through, it was really bad in Missouri, and it finally reached us through Terre Haute.
So you could just track the meth uh, epidemic from Texas.
From San Diego, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
It came from the yeah, a lot of the biker gangs in Southern California.
That's
So
not surprising, really. Yeah.
it's it was some real stuff, but meth has been around for um, since 1908, basically.
You know the history, the complete history of meth, don't you?
Yeah, there's some awesome books out there. But anyway, I was at this little country church. I was a single dad, and I had a kid in my youth group there who was 12 years old. His name was Brent, and he came up to my house up there right next to the church one Saturday afternoon, and someone in his family was chasing him, and they were high on meth. First time I'd ever heard anything about it. So I was like, man, how hypocritical of me to just sit here and be this goody two shoes preacher that's just going to pray for people but not do anything for them, actually. So make a long story short, I started a thing called Life After Meth, and within 2 years it had become a full-time job. I learned how to write grants, met a guy named Mike Carney at KCARC who was awesome in terms of a businessman getting us started, gave us a place to stay, and that was a job for me for 12 years. And so yeah, and that's when I met you. I started in the jail program. I started in 2007 in Knox County. At that time, it was the flavor of the month on these drug programs, and I think
Right.
it's still going there in Knox County. But with COVID, it's really hit it hard. But we had a community model program, and that's what you washed ashore there and in
Yeah.
Seaside at the Knox County Jail. And I remember you coming in there, and we had a process there in that drug rehab community where you guys taught the classes. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not in recovery. I never pretended to be. I never pretended to know what I was talking about in
Yeah.
terms of recovery. All I said was, I'm here to help. And
That
I
was interesting when they when you said, what classes do you guys feel like you need? And I remember teaching a class about in jail with, I had 5 guys sitting around me, and we were talking about childhood trauma, and I'm not going to put any names out there, but I was doing I was okay, maybe this is a little egotistical, but I finally found like I could teach a class even if I'm amongst my peers, like
right.
which isn't that odd. But I remember I had this one guy, and we're sitting around talking, and he was talking about his childhood, and he was talking about him being molested when he was a kid, like it was something that just happened to everybody. And
Yeah.
we were able to talk about this openly in jail, where you don't talk about stuff like that, or you're
That
considered
was that,
weak.
exactly. That was an amazing. That's a great point because that's one of the things that I loved. I loved the jail ministry. I'm in a church now. I'm at St. Paul's UCC up in Menominee Falls. I love being a minister. I love doing church work. But being in that jail to me was so exciting because I felt like I was on the front lines, because get in there and you realize that drug addicts, and I saw this constantly in Knox County, and Knox County really reacted well to this. But
They reacted well to the meth
they
crisis.
reacted well to the Life After Meth.
Oh, to the program itself.
When I
Okay.
would go out and I would go to Kiwanis or Rotary or churches and blah blah blah, and I would talk. I would be like I was doing a sales pitch, like these people aren't scumbags, and they're not lazy, and they're not just worthless human beings. They've been injured. There's background here. There's something has happened in them that has caused them to get caught up in it. And then you combine that with the fact that they don't have any bond money. So you've got socioeconomic issues. You got abuse issues. You've got all this stuff going on, and
Yeah.
well, you're just a lazy drug addict that can't get clean. And I'm in there going, hey guys, wake up.
Wake up. Yeah.
So the whole time I'm sitting there going, Alex, wake up. So you come in there and you were like this Marxist, you know, I loved it. You were just like this guy that was just like, yeah. And I was like, you're in the army. You're seriously in the army and you're like a Marxist. How could you get, anyway, you fascinated me. You just fascinated me because it was just like, you were this intellectual guy that just did not fit the mold. You know, you did not fit this bam, 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 but you're still from the North End and you're an extremely loyal guy. So you had this intellect that to me is off the charts. And I think
Thank you, Pete. Yeah.
because I see potential in you, and I love it that you're doing this podcast and you're working through this, and you're moving past your addiction, and you're like, wow, I actually can do things. You know, I love that in terms of seeing potential in people because you know to me that's what religion is about. It's about us fitting into our space and being able to realize it's not just about following rules. It's about us becoming who we're supposed to be in this world. You are not meant to sit in a jail every 6 months in a striped onesie.
Yeah.
Worry
On
about
that note, I've,
commissary.
I've had some success with sobriety in the past, and I would sit with it for six months to a year, and it never failed. Around the year mark, I was sober, had a job, etc. Checked the boxes. Something was still missing, and I just couldn't figure out what it was. I mean, I did all this psychoanalytical stuff this time around. I got to this point where the therapy sessions were coming shorter and shorter. We've tackled all the major monsters, and something was still missing. And which brings me back to step 12, of the 12-step program, which is to go out and teach what you've learned and kind of pass it on. So, I don't consider myself a Christian. I do follow some Christian tenets, but I thought it was really cool that you and I were able to meet on solid, neutral ground. When I was in jail, you had no illusions about converting me to Christianity. You were just out there trying to spread the word, and I think my word and your word, as far as like going out there and healing the community, even if it has to be one person at a time, is pretty much the same, different languages, but it's the same message, don't you think?
It is. It
Yeah,
is. You know, the older I get, the more I'm on this earth, the more I realize it's the amount of work there is to do in terms of healing us as a people, as a species is just endless.
there's no end. Yeah, that's what I was
You
gonna
know,
say.
you really just have to work. You have to just work person by person, and that's
And it
what.
is not fun. Yeah,
No, but
no,
to me, it's just like you get it. You understand that it really is a personal thing. I'm not about to tell you what God you're supposed to. I'm not even.
right.
I'm not going to tell you that they're even. It's up to you.
On
You
that same note, like
you know.
I think I've heard this said before on the internet and different places, but you have to heal locally before you can even attempt to think about, a lot of people want to put the cart before well, you know what I mean, the horse before the cart before the horse,
Right.
and try to heal the whole country by voting in a president. You know, we just saw this with the presidential election, people getting up in arms about Trump or Biden or red or blue, and it's so much smaller than that. It's down to an individual person, and you only have as much influence as the people that you let in your life on a regular basis, and you only have so much time for so many people. And I haven't seen many people be as successful as you have, but that took some time to build up to, right? I mean,
It
years
it,
and
it
years
did.
and years.
It did.
So
It took a lot of time and it took a lot of effort, and I got lucky in terms of who I was surrounded by in terms of the sheriff, the both the sheriffs I worked with were mostly cooperative, and especially Morris, just allowed us to do whatever we wanted there within reason, but gave
yeah,
us there. But we were it was really something where we just the thing that drove me was I was always so excited to see people get it. You know,
click,
people
yeah,
actually bam.
light bulb, yeah,
And
yeah,
it wore me out seeing people relapse. but I was ready to do something else, and that's why um, I got a church there in Vincennes, First Christian, and was there for 3 years after Lamb, and got this book finished. I finished the Life After Meth memoir. It's called A Safe Place for Brent, uh,
Okay.
and got that done. And I felt like Lamb was kind of done, but I stay in contact with a lot of people like you
Yeah.
who are making it, and it's fun to, but it's fun to move on too. And my wife and Emily and I and our kids, Jack and Katie, Dylan's still back at University of USI rather in Evansville. We moved up here, started over, and that's one of the things that I love about my life is you can just get up. It's okay to start over.
Was there a moment when
Move
you
on.
left Vincent's? There's so many questions I want to ask you right now, but I know we're on borrowed time always right now. But was there a moment that was a conclusion for you in Vincent's? I mean, before you picked up and took off, or was there a moment even before your big conclusion where you realized your work here was done?
With Lamb,
Yeah.
I mean, it would have to be the last banquet. We would have the banquet there at Highland Woods Community Center there on Hart Street, and the last one, we had about 600 people, and yeah, getting up, standing up. I remember standing up in front of everyone there and um, looking out, at that, and realizing that this is it.
It's bigger than you know. Yeah.
Now I'm ready to move on, and you know people are doing people are all over the country are doing what I did. They're
Good. I mean, I
all over
didn't
the
even
place,
realize that. Yeah.
doing the different ways, but they're doing it. We should not be special in terms of that. Every community needs something like this, because I looked at the jail as a monastery. And I looked at the jail in terms of it being this really tight knit group of guys that were going to get God in their own way. Because the 12-step program and the people I was interested in the Lamb program were people that were really not wanting to just use drugs recreationally. They were
Oh yeah.
using drugs to try to unite with their God consciousness.
Unsuccessfully. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Repeatedly.
because
Yeah.
methamphetamine increases dopamine by 1,400%.
Yeah. It's,
So
it's
you know,
preposterous.
you feel that, and that's it's an artificial God.
Yeah, there were times when I was using meth. I mean, I never really when I met you, I wasn't using meth. I that wasn't my drug of choice, but it really didn't matter. I was still chasing the dopamine ghost, that's what I call it, the dopamine
Yeah.
ghost. And I spent years looking to fill that void. And I would go. So when I finally did start using meth, which was this last time around a couple of years ago, started doing IV meth.
Mm.
Um, it was odd when I would get that giant dopamine rush, I would go straight into creating art, or I would make these crazy sculptures that nobody seemed to understand. I would come up with these giant and delusions of grandeur is the best way that I've heard it described. But I couldn't get and I kept finding myself wanting to share it with people. But I was so monstrous. Like I got holes in my face. I haven't eaten, so I'm extremely skinny. My one of these eyes is just kind of floating off the side, and but I realized, as I got sober later, that whole time I was filling that a certain part of the void with this dopamine rush of the drugs, but then I'd still wanting to share it with people, and I couldn't connect with anyone. So it meant absolutely nothing. And then you just keep it's like a computer error, you just keep doing laps. And it's insanity, it's pure insanity. But I was able to figure out through therapy that a lot of my problems came from feeling like I wasn't heard, and my feelings were never validated. I had some childhood issues, and I created some bad emotional habits as far as like reacting to things emotionally without much logic, or either too much logic and not enough emotion, or not enough or too much emotion and not enough logic. I created a lot of bad habits early on, and they were stuck ingrained in me, and I didn't have a way to slow down and break them down. And you were able to at least get me started on the path to figuring that out for myself. And I remember one thing that really sticks out to me is you gave me a book by Freud. I've been trying to remember what book this was because I read so many books when I was in jail for that 6 months. And Freud was talking about how when you pray, you're actually sending this sort of message to your subconscious, or this God part of your brain. And this is how I remember it. I'm probably not paraphrasing this very well, but or I am paraphrasing this the best way that I can, is that when you pray, whether or not you believe in a Christian God or Muhammad or whatever you do, you're sending this message to your subconscious, and you're planting this seed down in your subconscious for things to get better, and you're creating a circular wholeness when you pray. So I started praying because it was brought to me in a scientific way, that was because I was always, how I was against God and
Right.
church and government and society. I was extremely anti-social. I don't really know much about Marxism, but I know enough to, I know you're pretty hip to Russian literary giants and scientists. So that I was basically just angry at society as a whole, and because I felt rejected by society. And I think what you've done for me, Pete, is you gave me a place to start from. You made me feel heard. You made me feel validated. So now I've found my purpose in trying to help others. And this podcast is just one avenue that I'm using to reach out to people. I haven't been going to 12-step meetings as much lately, but I think a lot of people know me and respect me, people that are trying to get clean now, or at least they feel like they can be real with me. Uh, they don't have to put on a fake face to go into a board meeting or anything. They can come talk to me, and hopefully I can become sort of a gap between the well-to-dos in our community and the don't do well, never do wells, or whatever you want to call them. So thank you for that, Pete. And
You're welcome. You're
yeah,
welcome. I
man,
appreciate that.
I'm really excited to read that, A Safe Place for Brent. I haven't really dived in that yet because as you know, I just went through treatment for 6 months on the better part of last year, and I'm close to a year and a half now
Awesome.
sober. Yeah,
That's awesome. Well, I mean, it's all about moderation. I mean, even in spirituality, it's all
yeah,
moderation. It's all about being steady and balanced. And the images of Christ walking on the water, that's a story not about Christ walking on the water. That's about you walking above the chaos that is underneath, on top of that subconscious, being able to have moderation in your life so that you're balanced, about balance. When you find that balance, you can stop being impacted by your expectations. You know,
yeah, yeah,
one of the things I love about my favorite saying in AA is expectations are premeditated resentments.
yeah.
And I mean that
Makes sense. Yeah,
issues with that. I have issues with that too, man. I expect people to pat me on the back and tell me I did a good job, and you know, blah blah blah. You and I both, and the center of it for you is your family, and the center of it for you is your expectations on that, and then it moves out into the greater world, on
yeah.
society.
The family is a microcosm of
Yeah,
of society, and society is a microcosm of the universe.
and that's where Freud comes in for you. I think
Yeah,
that book you're referring to is probably Civilization and Its Discontents. Probably
that was
that.
it. Yep,
I
that's
think
it.
I
I've been
brought that
looking for
in.
that. I
That's
need
a
to write that
fabulous
down.
one. I Civilization and Its Discontents. I read that in college with
It's a
my
tough read. Yeah,
professor Roland Sherrill. He passed away a few years ago, but he taught that, and it's just it's Freud is he's talking about the biographical, whereas Jung talked about the biological. Um, Freud talks about how, and that's where I like that part of Freud, is that, you know, one of the reasons we're kind of messed up is because of our past and some of the things that didn't get fulfilled in that past. And you and I both have that in terms of our past. And so many people in a jail setting or prison have that sense of, I didn't get this, and I'm going to lash out at the world, or
Yeah.
I'm going to destroy my own body. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to take whatever this is, and I'm going to inject it in my arm.
They can't hurt anyone else, so they hurt themselves. So many times I've heard it said that um, anger turned inward is depression. So
Absolutely. And I remember talking to this one guy in group. We used to, before things got real crazy around the jail and everything got crowded, we were in that big rec room. And I remember this guy was talking about the same thing we're talking about right now. And he would hurt himself. And then he was wanting his ex-wife and his kids and his mom and his stepdad, all these people to, hey, look at me. Look what I've done. I looked at him and I said, man, no one's keeping score. No one's keeping score. No one's paying attention to you anymore. And he was like, yes, they are. I said, no, they're not.
they've written you off, dude. Yeah.
They've written you off, man. They're not paying attention to the fact that you're hurting in jail. And look at me. Move on, and you've got to live your life, man. And that's, you get that. Because after a while, drug use, when you're at that Freudian level, drug use is just self-destruction. You're just hurting yourself. You're not hurting society. Society doesn't care.
And you're doing these, and it's not just drug use, it's just compulsive behavior in general. There's no, like you said, there's no balance. There's I think there's this thing that kind of creates anxiety in people also along those same lines, is that we're running out of time. It feels like you're running out of time constantly, but at the same time, like, you can't build a house in one day. You have to start A, B, C, and you have to break it down and breathe, and you have to have patience, and you have to look at things through a longer scope. And I don't know, I have so many metaphors that I've learned that kind of help me have patience, but I still battle with that. I still battle with not having patience.
That is the essence of drug use and alcoholism, isn't it?
It's impatient. It's an instant gratification,
Bam. It's I want to not feel bad, and I want to feel good. And the drugs and the alcohol end up being an actual relationship, because that drug is consistent. I'm going to get this high. I'm going to get it now. I may not get fulfilled from my mom or dad or my society or from anybody else or my wife or my kids or my job, but I'm going to get it now, and I'm in control of it now. And that, that sense of control. And, to me, spirituality in life, I'm big into meditation, and meditation is all about being able to just sit there for 20 minutes and say, basically, meditation to me, I use the Jesus prayer, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I use the Jesus prayer to say to the world, to say to God, I don't have this. I'm not trying to.
When you're meditating with the Jesus prayer, do you actually hear the words, or do they become a mantra?
Yes.
Okay.
On a good day, it's a mantra. On a good day, it blends with my mind, and I don't even have to say it. All I have to do is think about it.
So it becomes a symbol of peace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it becomes a part of it. It is awakened. Something is awakened within you. But at first, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner, over and over and over again. You do that, where I don't know if I have my cross, my prayer cross, but I have a cross that has beads on it, and that's the Catholics have that as well. The rosary beads.
I've heard of that before. Yeah.
Those little beads on a rosary cross. You know what those are for? You hold them in your hand. You put them right here. And you say the prayer, and you go to the next bead, and you go to the next bead, and it involves your physical center as well as your intellectual and your emotional center. So you're going, do it over and over and over and over again. You train your mind. You train your mind, because all of this, to me, religion and everything is about psychology. Religion is not about morality. Religion is not about, you need to imitate right moral behavior.
That's what a lot of people hear about Christianity, and immediately their mind goes to, oh, they're going to tell me I'm going to go to hell if I do wrong, but they're doing wrong, and it becomes another lash out at hypocrisy.
Well, now it's equated with the American hypocrisy. Now it's equated with what party what
Yeah.
political party. And now it's like, well, I'm this, so I must be this, and that is just horrible, horrible, horrible. Because
Association. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, but that's what it does for me is it helps control, because I'm susceptible to um the same things that you are. Just because I'm no different than you, just because you're an addict, doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything.
I would argue that everyone has their own addiction, their own cross to bear. Uh, everyone, everyone has some shortcoming. There's no doubt about it. So something else that I kind of want to touch on with you a little bit, because I know you know quite a bit about, is like Christian mysticism and Gnosticism and how those cross over into almost every other world religion from way back all the way to the libraries of Alexandria and the Egyptians and the Romans before Christianity even came about. Where are you at with your understanding of that? I know I know some about it in reference, but I don't really know enough to speak on it. So anything that you'd have to say about that would be really interesting to me. As
Yeah,
far as
I mean, early Christianity really had to compete with the mystery cults, the religious philosophies, which were the Greeks, and of course Judaism, and then you've got the Gnostics. I was really interested in the Gnostics when I was in college, and I read one of the best books by Lane Pagels about Gnosticism. Gnosticism, there's a lot of stuff about it that I like. It talks about God consciousness, and it talks about God consciousness on an individual level, but it has two different groups in it. The one group is this aesthetic group that is just like the body is evil, and we should prevent the body from any kind of pleasure. Is the other group that is this libertinism that says it doesn't matter, the body doesn't matter anyway, so let's just do whatever we want. With
so two extremes, just
two
like Republican
extremes
and
on
Democrat. Yeah, yeah.
so with Gnosticism, and so there's a real sense that Gnosticism had this these two extremes, and but Christianity really had to compete with it, and Gnosticism eventually was kind of um, encapsulated within Christianity, and it was a heresy that the early church fought against. And but the thing that I love about it is this sense of returning to the light. This Gnosticism has the sense that that's what we're doing. We are returning to something, and that there is an eternal recurrence. That we are spirits. That we are not just Gnostics believe that this body is just a shell. That we came from a spiritual realm, a place, that we were born into this. And not to say that the in the Robert Monroe school of thinking, where we think of the earth as a loosh farm, where it's all just negativity that is being energized for these astral beings on this astral plane. But you've got this sense that the earth really is about evil, and that the body is evil and it needs to be shed. So the thing that got me with Gnosticism was just this sense that it was really about discipline, and it was really about this individual spiritual awakening that I have to have. And one of the things that I love about it is that I really do. The older I get, the older I get, the more I realize that there's so much about my life that seems like I recognize things, like I remember things, like all of a sudden it's this deja vu that happens a lot to me.
As if you've been here before. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't believe in reincarnation. I'm not talking
Okay.
about that, but I'm talking about what Charles Ashton, the guy I put a lot
You're
of
talking
video.
about recognizing patterns in life, like So you're like, man, I've seen this before, and other times in my life, or is it a little deeper than that?
Yeah, it's more than just this a matrix kind of thing where you know you see a cat twice.
Okay. Yeah.
Not just that, it's this sense of Charles Ashton would call it pre-existence. And one of the things I've gotten into the fourth way with Gurdjieff and Ospensky and Maurice Nicole and Moraviev, Ted Nottingham, Robin Amos. I've gotten into a lot of these guys and really have gotten into meditation, and it has taken me far, far away from what I was brought up with in the Methodist Church and in even in my denomination.
Which is a more fundamental route for sure.
Right. So I have really been blessed with being able to investigate this stuff because
So you're interested in the nature. These studies are more centralized on the nature of the soul, like the actual
yeah,
nature of the soul, like
yeah,
what it's made up of.
and the
What?
progression of it, and
Okay.
it's really about spiritual evolution. There's a Jesuit priest named Pierre Teilhard de Chardin who I'm really interested in, and you know, basically believed Christian Jesuit, you know, is Catholic who believed in evolution, straight up evolution, that we are advancing and that Christ is the what he called the Christique element. It's, you know, Christ is that's what we're going toward. Um, so there's a lot of stuff about this. You know, Christianity and religion in itself is all about investigation. You shouldn't be scared to investigate these things like Gnosticism, and that's where I'm like, yeah, you know, the world, go out there and find it, investigate, see what you like. I you know
It's a
I
personal journey, no
It's
doubt.
a
Yeah.
personal journey,
Yeah.
and everyone's on a different path. And I can say what worked for me, but I can't say what will work for you. But it's all about that um, excitement and that zeal about, there's something else
The
here.
awe factor. Yeah.
The
The
awe
awe.
effect, and that's why I moved to Wisconsin, because I wanted to, I wanted something new. I wanted to get out. I wanted,
There's something spiritual about the nature of adventure itself. Just to be a human being, and furthermore than that, whatever is driving this car of a body, whatever's inside of you that sees and makes the choice. I would argue that choice is the soul. Just the very act of making a choice is the spirit, is the soul. And just a good adventure, always sparked my.
yeah.
I would say that is half of my religion, is adventure itself. And like there were times, even when I was in jail, Pete, where although it was horrible, the food was terrible, these people stink and they're ignorant and they don't have any teeth, and all this terrible stuff.
Other than that, it's
There
fine.
was still this like romantic kind of like
It's like Jack Kerouac. It's like, get out
yeah,
there, don't worry about getting arrested, write a book about it, produce something.
make sure you're getting something out of it that
You
you
know,
can share. Yeah.
exactly. Get
Yeah.
something out of it and produce it. You know, I've written 7 books, and it doesn't even matter. I just keep writing stuff because I want to share it. You know, all this stuff, there's you have to have a fire for life. You have to have this sense that, this is I love being here. I love being on this earth. But I don't believe that spiritually I'm from here. None of us are.
No, it sure doesn't feel like it. There are times
Yeah.
where it feels so alien that I'm tempted to get bitter again and start giving up and go back into self-sabotage. But that's, luckily I've come along. I'm getting ready to turn 33 on St. Patrick's Day, Pete. And that's a pretty significant number along all kinds of different spiritual disciplines. 33.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. Let me tell you a real quick one on that.
Okay.
The Christian Orthodox, especially the Serbian Orthodox, have this saying that whenever a saint or whenever a mystic appears to someone in a vision or a dream, they appear as a 33-year-old, because that was the age that Christ was when he died. So you are at the golden age, Alex.
I'll tell you why, like, other than just reading, like, the Masons have 33rd degree, but I'll tell you why the number is important to me, other than Christ being 33, right?
Right,
in
sure.
the, I don't, okay, anyway. Uh, so 33 is a repeating number, kind of like, yeah, so you got 33, 66, 99. Then you have 999, mark of the beast, etc. So on, superstitious, hokey pokey. But 9.99 is like the closest you can get, and it repeats off into infinity before you get to a whole number one, 0.99.
Right.
So 33 being a third of that. It's almost like, and it also kind of echoes this sentiment of shooting towards being Christ-like or Buddha-like, but knowing you'll never actually reach it in this lifetime. But it's not so much the attainment of becoming the Christ or becoming the Buddha. It's not the actual becoming of the Christ, or apotheosis, as it were. It's the attempt that makes us whole spiritually. And the attempt to be a better person, in the it's not even about morality, doing what's right or wrong simply for the sake of doing what's right or wrong. It's attempting to be a better person because it fulfills you spiritually in a way that's almost, it's hard to put into words. Like, and a good example of this is like when you do something for someone out of nowhere. Like, I'll just driving down the road, and I'll see somebody having a bad day, and then I pick up this guy and give him a ride, and I do this altruistic act. That's what separates us from a beast. That's, it's things like that that make you feel godlike. And I don't know where I was going with that, but basically, I think altruism is this the one thing that separates us from animals. Everything else can be explained away, like technology and things like that can be explained away pretty easily with science and extrapolation. But when you get to this point of altruism, where you help out a dying animal that you have no need, there's no purpose or utilitarian reason for helping this dying animal, but you do it because there's an empathy, there's a sympathy there that goes beyond biology. It speaks to the gold, the gold in each person. And that's why I love
Yeah.
alchemy too. Alchemy, I think
Yeah.
that's why alchemy is really interesting to me. It's not just witchcraft, and even some elements of Wiccan, which that's become part of my path. Is I've studied some Wiccan. It gets a little hairy when you start meeting other Wiccans, and they're a strange bunch, Pete.
They are.
They
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah,
They're
they
fun
are.
people though. Generally pretty kind, but I've also, I've met some Satanists that were pretty good people, but they didn't actually worship this deity Satan. It was sort of a rebellious mockery of institution. But then I've met bad Satanists, and they're really, really bad. Like, get their
Yeah.
jollies from hurting people. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with all that, but
Well, I mean, just to piggyback on that, I mean, it really is all about, either being in control or allowing yourself to go along with the rhythm of life. And the Satanism and the Wiccan, that is all about controlling nature,
yeah,
being able to not get hurt, and it is pretty sinister stuff. And it doesn't scare me at all, but it's really a sense of being and
sadism. Yeah,
I'm really big into Joseph Campbell, and the mythology.
yeah. I really like. Have you been into Peterson lately, Jordan Peterson?
I have not gotten into
Oh
Jordan.
wow, dude, amazing. He
I
breaks
know
down a lot of.
I've read some of his stuff, but
He has some YouTube lectures about books from the Bible, and he breaks them down in a academic way for the person who does not consider themselves a Christian. I think he may be a Christian at the heart of it. You just have to listen to me and tell me what you think. I'm a big
I
fan.
have I've got one of his books, and yeah, I've got I don't know about Peterson, but
Joseph Campbell. Yeah.
Joseph Campbell is the guy that really talks about participating in the rhythm of life and not being in control of it. Some folks think that esotericism and um, esotericism is really about this. It's just too slow, um, and you have to. You're not in control of things, and you need to be in control of breathing. You need to be in control of your life, and you need to grasp onto it. And to me, that sounds like an addict. And,
Yeah.
you know, to me, what I want to do is I want to be participating in the rhythm of life, because I'm here for a reason. I don't know what anyone else is doing, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out for me. And the way I figure it out is I hang out with people who are like-minded, but also I hang out with people who are not like-minded, and I learn from them just as much. I learn from people who, who've struggled, and I can help them in that altruistic nature of it. Um, it's like building. I'm really into the fourth way stuff with Gurdjieff and Ospensky, and really is there's a lot of about chemistry and about the physical part of this in terms of, you know
Chemistry in what sense?
we build energy. Kind of new age sense, but we build spiritual energy, fine energies, as Gurdjieff would say. We build them, and the way we build them is through meditation and through altruism and doing good deeds. We don't do them because it's the right thing to do. We do them because it's building this energy, and it's kind of shedding that karmic burden. Because I mean, if you're gonna do mean spirited, selfish stuff just for yourself all your life, you're gonna build up this negative energy around you that is gonna it's gonna tag along with you, like a bad odor. And part of this is shedding that and being able to just say, you know, one of the things that I see in you, and how you are doing so well, is that you are not being impacted by just the weird circumstances that happen around you. You're not getting knocked off your path anymore. You're actually, following through on stuff, and you're doing things regardless of the circumstances of the people, your family, job, money, exes. You're not getting thrown off course. You're steady. You're steady.
Moment at a time. Yeah.
You know, and that's the key to it all. It's not about controlling the environment around you, whether it's your body or your spirit. It's not about controlling that. It's about being a participant in the organic life of this earth, and realizing that it is the fact that I am, whether I feel like I'm like the Gnostics, I'm a spiritual being on this earth. I'm still in this physical body, man. I still
Yeah.
have to exist on this earth.
And
And
we're back to balance. Yeah.
yeah, I still have to find a balance.
Yeah.
I still have to find that. And when you can find that,
I really like this. Yeah. The middle path. Yeah. I really like this idea of the Star of David. And I think I've said this to you before, and I've said it on the podcast before. But the Star of David, and the triangle pointing up being fire, and the triangle pointing down being water, or the phallus and the womb, and they're exactly balanced. And that's something that I keep in my heart as a symbol, in my mind as a symbol for knowing when to yield, and knowing when to persist, and interject yourself into a situation. And it's sort of like, if you find yourself in a river, and you're stuck, and you do you fight against the current, or do you go with the current and slowly swim towards the bank? And that seems to be the smartest way to go. And if you can apply that, so I keep that as a symbol to remind myself when things get muddled, and when I get overwhelmed, because I still have problems with getting overwhelmed. They say it's a part of a condition I have that's chemical in nature, but it's not insurmountable. I do get overwhelmed even by my own thoughts. They come rushing in. I get excited, and but I keep that symbol in my head to remember that I don't know everything, and I'm a part of a whole. And so that's what came to mind when you were talking about being a part of the world, and learning to go with the flow. I think a lot of people don't feel like they're a part of the whole, and then they end up fighting against the current, and then a lot of them drown, and it's sad.
you and I both have, you and I both had a lot of people we love die.
Yeah, I've lost quite a few lately.
We've both of us have, and that's the thing. Drugs aren't just bad because they're bad. You're not supposed to do them. It's that that has nothing to do with it. It
Yeah,
You off your balance. That's what drugs do. That's it.
When you're using them to change the world, they're destructive. You know, they do have some medicinal benefits, but I don't think a lot of people are strong or smart enough to
But
know what
and
those are. Yeah.
that again is all about moderation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, whether it's drinking or smoke, it's all about moderation, man. Just don't do things in extreme. Don't try to possess it. That's it. It's,
I've tried it. It's not for me. I'm sure
I
there are
know, but
people who can
I
do it.
mean, that's what they're meant. They're not made, drugs in essence are, were goes hand in hand with spiritual awakenings of all the major religions,
Yeah.
way back,
Psychedelics in particular, for
you
sure.
know,
It's hard to
and
deny that. Yeah. It's
And
definitely.
one of the things that why one of the reasons our 7 billion strong planet is so screwed up is because we've had just decade after decade of war, and as wars are not fueled by patriotism. Wars
Yeah.
are fueled by drugs.
It seems
They're
laughable to
fueled.
me, but a lot of people believe that. They really do.
they're-
They
It's not patriotism and God have nothing to do with wars. The soldiers all the way back to the Vikings and the berserkers with their mushrooms. They're all about psychedelics or vodka or drugs. That's where methamphetamine, that's
opium. Yeah.
came
Yeah.
from. Opium in the Civil War. Um, Look, man, you have, and that is where the extremes come in. You have to get, the Blitzkrieg in 1939. The reasons the Germans were successful is, well, how could the Germans have 4 days worth of supplies and all this? Dude, those guys were so twacked out on meth. They were just so high for 4 days. They were eating chocolate that was laced with
Meth. Yeah.
meth. It was called Preventin. It was called Preventin, and the German, the German just Joe Schmoes were on this stuff. It's crazy the history of methamphetamine in the 30s and 40s. It literally fueled the war for the Americans and the Germans and the Japanese. Those kamikaze pilots were totally high on
I've
meth.
heard that. Yeah. I've read it for sure. It makes a lot of sense when you think about the winter they fought in.
I mean, I talk about this in this book
Do
about
you?
him. Yeah, there's a whole section in this a safe place for Brent about it. It's fascinating stuff. Um, I think the author, I forget the author's name, but man, it's a book called Shooting Up, and it's fascinating stuff. But yeah,
There were times when I was on meth that I could just go. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but I could just go no matter what. I didn't need food. I didn't need sleep. Now, eventually, there was a major come down from that. And there were times where the drugs actually helped me get through some stuff that I don't know if I would have made it through without them, especially when I was younger, when I felt unheard and abused by society. They had a place and they had a purpose. But here's the thing, though. You can't just stop and be like, okay, well, they've served their purpose. I'm done now. No, that's for whatever reason they get in you. I was reading William S. Burroughs, Jack Kerouac's
yeah,
friend, wrote
yeah.
Naked
I love
Lunch.
Burroughs.
Wait, crazy dude, like,
Yeah,
but amazing author. And he was arguing that heroin has turned into, or that when people,
there you go.
I've
These are
never
the
read
red.
that one.
This is
Yeah.
fascinating. I love that book.
But
Go
he
ahead.
was talking. My point was though, and I'm gonna butcher this, but he was saying that once you use opium for so long, that or any kind of opiate, that it actually rearranges your DNA. Like it gets the compulsion to use it becomes part of your DNA. And this was
I mean,
totally a philosophical perspective that he was a theory that he was coming up with, but it makes a lot of sense. And especially when you're talking about adolescent drug use, where
mhm,
these people, why these kids are actually coming to be who they're going to be for the rest of their life, and they're under the influence of opiates and marijuana and these different
absolutely.
alcohol, Yeah, I mean, drugs are a part of our human condition. They,
I mean, you and I both have know people from our experiences who've done so much methamphetamine that they are changed forever
yeah,
and cannot consistently do the right thing. That their frontal lobe is so
it's so
impacted
sad. That's so sad.
that
Yeah.
they can't that I know I know guys that have done enough duster that they cannot handle life. I've known, heroin, uh, on and on, but meth in particular, there's
Well,
just
so they
it's
showed me a
organic
chart
brain injury.
last time I was in treatment. They showed me a chart. I forget exactly how it was played out, but the dopamine that gets released from meth is like 300, 400% more than any other drug,
Oh
bar,
yeah,
bar none. So if you're talking about somebody who started shooting up meth at age 12, and so really I'm grateful because I was only in the game, the meth game, for 2 years, two
right.
solid years. I dabbled in it throughout the years, but I really got into it hard, IV use, for 2 solid years.
I
And
mean,
I got out. I got out by the hair of my chinny chin chin, man. I was starting to lose it. Like I was having delusions, Pete, where I was actually talking to demons. Like I thought they were in the room with me, and I don't know, maybe that's some subconscious shadow, Jungian type stuff. But and we can get into whether you think
yeah.
demons or evil entities are real or not, but it doesn't matter. It
I
really
mean,
doesn't matter.
whether
And
that's a portal that you have opened up or whether
maybe, yeah,
brain injury and your dopamine is just running rampant, you're not made to do it. Those drugs are created in order to fuel soldiers, and
yeah.
to me that's what it's all about. So in Vietnam in 1975, we were getting about 1,000 guys coming home every day from Vietnam who were addicted to heroin.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
you
yeah.
want to talk about just injecting an element of criminality and element of abuse and all this kind of.
And
I
then
mean,
coming back home to a country that banned the substance. So then they're going into the private, it wasn't privatized, the military or prison system back then, but it was heading that direction.
well,
You
and we have it's debatable. I talk about this too in the book. President Nixon, 1971, I think it was, basically criminalized the drug addicts because many of the Democrats, many of the people who use these drugs, African Americans and hippies, were
yeah,
they were Democrats and he was a Republican, so he criminalized their behavior just for political reasons.
to
And
get a vote. Yeah.
what does that do? And that leads all the way down to Westphalia in 2005, and here we are. You're arrested if you have a tiny little bit of meth or a tiny little bit of pot. Really? Does it really matter? Are you serious? So that person is a criminal because of that?
And a
No.
felony too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a felony. So you're going to be sitting in jail for 18 months or 2 years before you even can see your lawyer two times, and you're poor, so you can't bond out. And it all goes back to one politician who says, "Well, let's target them because they're the opposition." Oh my gosh, it gets so complicated, and it's just crazy how much hypocrisy there is here. And that's what Lamb was really about, was getting in there and saying, "Hey, time out, man. These guys are not bad people. They're certainly not criminals. Yeah, they've done some bad things, but so have you. I've known some lawyers,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
right? Come on now.
Yeah.
Who've done just as, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We can talk privately about that.
I
But
already know. Yeah.
kinds of stuff. Come on, man. The hypocrisy is just ridiculous. And that's what gets me mad. The injustice, the inequality about it. And that's where you and I, with your Marxist ideology, like, come on. The system, the system is rigged. The system is rigged for people who are poor and who are addicted to a drug. It shouldn't be that way. I'm a Christian minister. Let's go in the jail, try to figure this out. Wow, it's really complicated.
Yeah, it is human nature to capitalize off of others' weakness, and I think that's something I've always felt strongly about since I was a little kid was equality. You know, I always felt this strong urge for equality, and maybe that's something I really like about myself is that I didn't
Yeah.
understand racism at a very early age. I don't think any child does really. You know, I think it kind of gets beat out of them as the years go on. This sense of equality. Um,
Mhm.
I think that it's important to note that most children are extremely kind to each other, black, white, male, women. And I mean, you have kids that pick on each other and stuff like that, but it's the parents that lead them into that. But a lot of these politicians will prey upon a weakness to get themselves a vote. And I don't know. I lost it,
I
but
know. It's pretty complicated stuff, but I'm telling you, man, half the battle is finding out like, oh man, identifying this stuff and saying, let's go toward a solution on this. And
I do have to speak highly for I think you did have a big impact on Vincennes as far as I don't know if you were involved with getting drug court started here. I know Ryan Johanningsmeyer was, and
Ryan was, and I give yeah, I mean I give Dirk Carnahan a lot of credit. Uh,
yeah, I know
really,
Dirk. Yeah,
Dirk is awesome. Dirk's one of my favorites. And I had county council Bob Lechner and Steve Tace who passed away, and
great guy, Steve. Yeah,
some of those guys were just enormous in terms of. So you need people that see it, and they understood the political ramifications of having that, and it benefited them. In other words, and I get that, but at the same time, it was altruistic, and it was a good thing.
you
And
can. That was my other point. Is like you can really tell with drug court that I mean they do have to draw a hard line at times with people that just keep failing drug tests or
sure.
whatever. But for the most part, they're legitimately talking about what we're talking about right now.
Oh,
That they're
absolutely. Drug
these are
courts.
human beings. These aren't
Yeah.
offenders. God, I hate that word, offenders. But
Yeah. But that drug court's great. You
yeah,
know?
it's done me a world of good. I don't know. I mean, I kind of I helped myself a lot with what I've learned, but I'd be ignorant to say that I wasn't helped quite a bit by you and by Lamb and by countless other people in the program. And I really like Joe Williams over there at drug court. He's my counselor or what a case manager. But when I went in there and I was just broke down and I was busted and I had just been arrested after my overdose. I said, Joe, listen, man, I'm going to tell you right now, I can't stop. I don't know what to do. The VA was giving me a cold shoulder. I tried so hard to get into rehab and they just kept. And when you're strung out like that, I could have probably tried a little harder, but I was so out there. I called and I was like, well, they didn't want to talk to me. They had me on hold for 40 minutes before I could even talk to another robot that gives me another number and it redirects
Right.
you. And finally, Joe Williams, because of his legal capacity, was able to get through to the VA and got me into rehab that day. Like they said, pack your bags, you'll be out of here first thing in the morning, and I was gone the next day. But I, t-
A
I
lot of
made,
this is who you know. You got to be in the right place at the right time.
I got lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, you did, and you just, man, I'm just so proud of you. You just keep going on, and just keep doing good things, man. Just keep
Yeah.
doing one good thing after another, and what happens.
Yeah. We're starting a concert in June with First in collaboration with First City Movement. So I'd really like it if maybe you could make it down. I don't know if you'll be able to. I know you have a lot of responsibilities, but if you come down, see some bands and unwind, like I don't because
Sounds good.
I don't want this podcast to be completely about recovery because that'll probably turn a lot of people off who aren't in recovery. But it's a big part of my life. So obviously it's going to be a big part of the podcast.
Absolutely, absolutely, and this podcast can focus attention on those topics, and that's not a bad idea in terms of knowing that this podcast is going to have some every ideas, but not totally focus on it. I think you're onto something, man.
Yeah, well, I'll be looking forward to have you on again. Thanks for going over with me, Pete. We went over by
Got
quite
it.
a bit, but it's I just get wrapped up in talking to you, man. You're such a
Hey,
big
no
part of my
problem. It's
life, and
fantastic. Well, let me know and just go ahead and send me that we transfer and
yeah,
let's be
I'm
in
gonna go
touch.
ahead and stop the recording, and
Okay.
then we can share a few ideas right after this before we hang up. But
Okay.
thanks everybody for tuning in. This is Pete Haskins. Check out his book, A Safe Place for Brent. You want to hold that up so they can see
Oh
it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon.com.
Yeah, he has a few other books that are amazing as well. I can't remember the names right off top, but we can plug those in the description. But really, thanks again, Pete. I love you, man.
Love you too, man. I'm proud of you. You take care. We'll see you
Yes,
soon.
sir. All right.